What grammar mistakes should you look out for when you're editing your writing? Hi there, my name is Brian Collins. Welcome to the Become a Writer Today channel. In this video, I'm going to walk through 12 different common grammar mistakes to watch out for. These are grammar mistakes I used to make or still make, and I like to refer to some shorthand notes that I have on my desk when I'm editing my work so I can avoid them. So I've recorded this video as much for me as for you so we can both learn more about the principles of English grammar. Let's dive in. Before we do that, why even worry about grammar mistakes? Well, here's a popular Rorschach test for grammarians. The next time somebody tells you grammar doesn't matter, give them these two sentences and see what they say. Let me explain. The first instance of this sentence reads, a woman, without her, man is nothing. So the intention here is that man or a man is nothing without a woman in his life or without the support of a woman. In other words, it puts all the emphasis on the importance of women in this particular sentence. That's all down to some basic punctuation, in this case, the humble colon and comma. Now, if you take away the colon and you move the comma, it dramatically changes the context of the sentence. A woman without her man, is nothing. When you move the comma to here and remove the colon, it rewords the sentence or rephrases the intention of the sentence so that it suggests that a woman is nothing unless she has the support of a man. In other words, it's the complete opposite of what the first sentence says. Now, you'll find dozens of examples of this test in the English language, and it's a good example of why it's important to know when to use your colons and when to use your commas. And there is some software that you can use to do just that, or you can read some basic grammar books. But I always like referring to this test when somebody says that no, grammar doesn't matter and who cares about commas and punctuation marks and so on. Next time somebody says that to you, send them this test and see what they say. Next up, I'm going to cover a couple of common grammar mistakes that writers of all levels make. Sometimes it's through omission, in other words, they forget to put in an apostrophe or a comma, or sometimes it's because of a lack of awareness of some basic grammar rules. These are mistakes that I make, so don't worry if you make them, just watch out for them. The first one is it's, as in it is, versus it's. And in this case, the apostrophe between the T and the S is replacing the letter I. So this means it is, whereas this means it's. It is a hungry dog is grammatically correct. The dog ate its dinner with the apostrophe is not. So it should read as the dog ate its dinner because it's is demonstrating possession. And in this case, it's is demonstrate is a conjunction for it is. So the next time you are reading or self-editing and editing a piece of your writing, look out for instances when you use it's versus it is and if you're using the apostrophe correctly. The next grammar mistake to look out for is how you're using the words which and that in your sentences and in your writing. So here's a piece of shorthand that I refer to because this is a mistake that I make all the time. Which informs, it's kind of like an addendum or an extra piece of information which adds some context to your sentence. So it gives the reader a bit more information. That, on the other hand, provides a definition. It's a critical part of the sentence which cannot be removed. So here's an example. John built that house. So in this case, if I were to move the word house, the sentence would be hard to read and wouldn't make sense. Now, the example that I have below reads as this house, which John built, resembles his house. And in this case, it's a piece of extra information, but if I remove it, the sentence is still grammatically correct. So use this shorthand for which informs and that defines the next time you're reviewing your work. The next common grammar mistake to look out for is may versus might. So the word may is, apart from when you're referring to the month, of course, is typically used to express something that's possible or something that's factual. So I've written here, I may have to record this part of the video. I could express this statement before recording this part of the video because I may have to re-record it if I make a mistake that's confusing for you, the viewer, but it's not necessarily something that has happened yet. On the other hand, might is used to express something that's hypothetical. So I might record another grammar video. It's something that I'm thinking about, but I haven't yet committed to doing. Still confused? Here's another example. If I win the lotto, so it's hypothetical, there's no guarantee it's going to happen, I might buy a Ferrari. It's hypothetical because there's no guarantee, firstly, that I'm going to win the lotto, and secondly, I haven't actually decided if I'm going to go ahead and buy a Ferrari if I win the lotto. Now, with this one, it is worth remembering that there is some differences depending on how you use may and might in British English versus American English. So do bear in mind your audience, and it's not something to obsess over too much if you see this in your work, but it is good to be aware of the differences between how British English writers and American English writers use both. Let's versus let's with and without the apostrophe is another common grammar mistake to watch out for. So when you have an apostrophe between T and the S, it can dramatically change the context of a sentence, just like when you add a comma. So in this case, when I have the apostrophe, I'm going to have the comma, let us eat kids. That is grammatically correct. On the other hand, if I were to phrase it like this, she lets us go out this evening without an apostrophe, it means that she is giving us permission to go out at night. And it all comes down to whether or how you've used the apostrophe and also where you've placed your comma. The next common grammar mistake that I used to make quite regularly, and one that I still see being made a lot, is incorrectly using words like literally. So literally means that something actually happened, that it factually happened, that it was an event. So if you wrote something like, when I saw the bill for my meal, I literally died. That would actually mean that when you saw the bill for your meal, you had a heart attack and keeled over and died right there in the restaurant. So if you're describing an emotional reaction or what you thought or how something impacted on you, be careful about how you use the word literally unless it actually happened. So you'll see cliches like, she literally stood on top of her head. Again, that means that she actually did get up on top of her head. So do take that word out if you're unsure about how you've used it in your work. The next common grammar mistake relates to the word there. How do you use the correct version in your writing? So T-H-E-R-E refers to a place. As in, over there, I saw a group of people gathered and talking about grammar. It's a location that I can point to or refer to. There, as in T-H-E-I-R, refers to something that's owned by a group. So their shoes are over there. And there, with an apostrophe between the Y and the R, is a contraction of the word they are. So they are learning grammar because it's something that they're doing or engaged in. So this is a mistake that's easy to make because you can forget to use the apostrophe or it could autocorrect on your phone. So when you're reading through your articles, ask yourself, have you used the correct version of there in your work? The next common grammar mistake to watch out for is lose versus loose. So to lose means to be deprived of something or to not achieve something. So I lose every time I play blackjack. In other words, I'm not very good at cards. He didn't want to lose his cattle to the wolves, so I didn't want to be deprived of my cattle. On the other hand, loose means something's not fixed in place. So some examples, your belt is too loose, or we should loosen our belts. The next common grammar mistake boils down to a space. So into versus into. So into, no space, expresses movement of something towards something else. So Mary moved into the apartment or into her apartment or into the house last weekend. She was moved from one place to another. Whereas in space to is simply short for in order to. So it's kind of similar to what I was talking about with conjunctions earlier on. On the other hand, in space to is short for in order to. So she dropped in to say hello to me. So in this case, she's visited because her intention was to say hello or to express a greeting. So it changes the context somewhat. Here's another common grammar mistake because the two words are pretty similar apart from the letter E or the letter I. So to emigrate with an E means to leave one's country to go somewhere else. So I live in Ireland, so I could emigrate to the United States if I wanted. Whereas immigrate means to arrive in another country to live there. So somebody could say about me, he is an immigrant because he came from Ireland to the United States. You can use this mnemonic to quickly remember the difference. Emigrate is to immigrate as go is to come. So it really does depend on the context, the subject and the object of what you're saying. And of course the same applies to emigrant versus immigrant. So do ask yourself if you're using both words in the correct context and if you spelled them correctly too. The next common grammar mistake refers to the word principal versus principal. So principal refers to someone or something that's important. So London is the principal city in the United Kingdom, or Dublin is the principal city in Ireland, or he is the school principal, or as you'd say in the United States, headmaster. On the other hand, principle, so LE, implies a concept, philosophy, or a fundamental truth. So putting the reader's interests is always a good writing principle. The next common grammar mistake refers to using the word farther versus further. So farther, as in F-A-R-T-H-E-R, refers to a measurable distance. So Dublin is farther from Brazil than the United States. And of course, please excuse my Irish accent. whereas further demonstrates a quantity, time, or metaphorical distance. So the editor offered no further information, so further with a U, about why he rejected the freelance writer. Final common grammar mistake for this video to watch out for is compliment versus complement. And this is one that I still make, and I often find myself having to look up the differences. So compliment with an I means to praise or congratulate someone. The fact that she likes my writing is a major compliment, so I feel good about it. It says that my writing is good because she likes it. You know, it's a positive emotion. Whereas compliment with an E means that something improves something else or makes it complete. Their personalities complement each other, or the steak and pepper sauce complement each other because they go well together. So I hope you enjoyed this overview of some common grammar mistakes to watch out for. I make these all the time. Don't worry if you make them in your writing. In fact, what I recommend you do is use some grammar checker software to help you find and fix these mistakes. I use software like Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid, and I'll put some links to my discounts and videos for both beneath this video. You can also read a good grammar book. So I recommend Eats, Shoots and Leaves by Lynn Truss and The Elements of Style by Strunk and White, which is a popular grammar book and a classic that's been around for years. And hey, don't let these grammar mistakes or fear of them get in the way of publishing your work. The beauty of writing online today is that you can find and fix these mistakes much more easily and fix them even after you press publish. But it's still good to be aware of them and to be constantly honing your writing skills. So if you enjoyed all of this content, if you enjoyed these tips, or if you disagree with some of my grammar mistake suggestions, let me know in the comments section below.